If you crave nature but still shop online, Night and Day Herbals is your dream come true. Discover premium herbal soaps, shampoos, and CBD products. All organic, all for you. Shop now at nightandayherbals.com.
All right, y'all. So we about to get into part 2 of this interview with this Sascha Riley, William Sascha Riley, exposing the criminal network of Jeffrey Epstein and Trump. So we go ahead and get into part 2. I went live with part 1 last night, so y'all can catch that replay. But let's go ahead and get into part 2. Make sure y'all smash the video, the like on this video, double tap the screen, share this video, and I appreciate y'all. Let's get into it.
Oh, I'm just checking here.
So to kind of recap what we were just talking about, one of the first memories, or one of the first memories that seared itself into my consciousness because of being what I perceived as a threat as a child, was watching Donald Trump kill a litter of puppies. He did it in a variety of ways. As I stood there, they made me stand there, and he would harm or kill the puppy and then look to see what my reaction was. And in my child's brain, that registered because I viewed him as somebody more dangerous than my parents, and I knew that they would hurt me. So in my ability to reason, my reasoning was, if they were worse people than my parents, that they were somebody that might kill me. So that is why he was so, that's why I most of the stuff I just tried to forget. But with him, with Andy, and with Jim, I remembered them because they, the truth is, they scared me.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to summarize a bit about what we had discussed that wasn't recorded. So with Trump, when Trump murdered the puppies and forced you to watch, you were 8 or 9 years old. That was your first remembrance of Trump. And had Trump sexually assaulted and tortured you already?
Maybe, but I don't recall. I think what happened, and I'm relatively certain, but I think that was the precursor to him sexually assaulting me.
So
I think that was in an effort to make the experience as brutal as possible for me. That was the same kind of MO that was used with Patricia later on.
Mm-hmm.
So it seemed to be that he would use his imagination as such to try to figure out what ways would be the most traumatic, to make the most traumatic experience, to destroy somebody, kind of traumatize somebody to the maximum potential possible.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the first template of that, was watching him kill those puppies. And then the next higher order of that, and I couldn't tell you exactly how much time passed between, but I would say likely a couple of years, or at least a year later, before the instance with Patricia.
Okay, and the incident with Patricia was
when...
And
at that point, at that point, I had already, in my mind, I had already thought, there's no way I'm going to live through this anyway. They're just going to torture me to death anyway. So I might as well do everything I can to fight back.
Okay. And so with the incident with Patricia, then recapping, they told you to go into another room with Patricia. There was film? They were filming?
No.
There wasn't filming in such a case?
What happened with me and Patricia, my dad, before we got to the party, said, hey, there may be somebody you know. I had been trafficked with her previously, but she and I were as close to being friends as you could be. We were, in the same boat as far as, our station in life. So we had kind of become friends, and she ran up to me, and I can remember she saying, hey, come go with me. And I said, I can't. And my dad said, no, it's okay. You guys go off and have fun. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, you can go just have fun. You're an adult now. And I can remember thinking in my mind, I was wondering, what happens next? And the only thing that I knew of really of being an adult was my dad. And I knew that he didn't go to these parties and get assaulted. So in my mind, I thought, well, maybe that part of my life is over. But anyway, we left. We wound up going into the farmhouse. We went into the room not at the behest of anybody else. She wanted to have sex with me because she knew I wouldn't hurt her.
Mm-hmm.
I believe, I wouldn't swear to this part, but I am relatively certain she and I had already made some movies together, off, not at the farm, but at a shoot. But I didn't have sex in a way that brutalized people, because I kind of knew how that felt. So it was a matter of her kind of choosing somebody to try to go have sex with, so she wouldn't be placing her life in danger by having sex with one of these rich guys. So we went in and started having sex. This was not in front of anybody. It wasn't filmed that I know of. It was just, we kind of, if we were going to have the opportunity to go have sex with somebody, we were going to go have sex with each other, because that, in that instance, neither of us would get hurt. Mm-hmm. But while we were in that room, after some period of time, the people at that party busted in, 6, 5, 6, 8 maybe people, big people, adults. At least one of them had a gun. I think 3 or 4 of them had a gun, to be honest with you. But then they assaulted her with me at gunpoint, and then they killed her in front of me. Mm-hmm. And said, that's what's going to happen to you if you don't do everything the next person that walks in this room what they want.
Do you think they knew Trump was going to walk in the room? Do you think they had premeditated that Trump would walk in the room next?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that was just part of the experience for him, to traumatize me. And for all I know, he was watching through a crack in the wall. I don't know about that.
So like an escalation from the puppies.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah. Trump would traumatize you first and then sexually assault you. There was the incident when
yes.
Trump murdered the puppies and forced you to watch. And then the incident when Trump had Patricia killed.
Yes.
Okay. And then that's the incident with Patricia we spoke about, where Trump assaulted you, tortured you, and then Trump wanted you to engage in sex with Trump, and you found the tent peg and got a condom on, and then inserted the condom in Trump's anus,
and kicked it as hard as I could.
And kicked as hard as you
yes.
could. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And my plan was to continue hurting him to death, but as soon as I did that, he started screaming, and those same people busted back in. So.
And then what occurred?
My dad was at that party, obviously not in that room. It was just these other people, but we did not get assaulted or anything at that party. They didn't know what to do at that point. So we left. We didn't get beat up. I didn't get further assaulted by anyone, but some period of time passed, a week, 2 weeks, 6 weeks. I couldn't tell you how much time, but I can remember my dad saying, we've got to go face the music. So, I can remember him talking to me like I had done something wrong. He said, you can't do that to the rich people. You're going to get beat up, is basically what he said. He said, you've been beat up before. It's going to be just like that. You'll be okay. But I can remember him saying, you can't fight back or they'll kill us both.
Hmm. And that's when you were taken to the farm, and then 6 or 8,
Yes.
maybe 10 different groups
It
assaulted
wasn't
and tortured
individuals.
you.
It's just like, yeah, it was at least 3 or 4 or 5 people at a time in these groups, because I think by that point I had done what I did to Trump. They knew that I was kind of in a homicidal type of rage, so they made sure to have enough people that they felt safe. Because also my dad could fight too, and he was there.
Mm-hmm.
So they had, in each of these little groups, they had enough that they felt that I'm sure that they could overpower both me and my dad, because my dad's no slouch either. I could fight like a little Wolverine even as a child because of how I came up. Well, he was a bare knuckle boxer and a tough man type of dude, so he could fight too. But it was like they took us from station to station, you know, to I don't know, just to increase the horror of it, I guess. I really
Premeditated. Seems like premeditated.
Yeah, oh, yes.
Like,
well,
what I know
yeah,
of Trump is that
like,
Trump would attempt to premeditatedly stage such a scene to terrorize you retaliatorily.
Yes. Yes.
So
he wasn't there at that. I would
Yeah.
assume that it was a close enough time frame that he was still recovering.
Yeah.
But I can remember that even my dad having the conversation with the people, because of the level that they had kind of taken it to get me to that homicidal rage. I remember my dad arguing that it was unreasonable. He said, you know, this is just what happens when you push somebody far enough, you know?
So then
an argument.
So then they took you to different locations, several groups at a time, tortured and assaulted you sexually, and then at one point you said they hosed you off with a garden hose. And what did they say again to your dad? That you were dirty and to hose you off?
They said he's disgusting. Just take a garden hose to him or something. And somebody went inside the house and got a bar of soap. And I remember they threw it at me and hit me in the head, and that they all thought that was funny. And I was struggling because I had to get the soap from the ground. And I can remember being hit to the point where I was just having trouble grasping the soap. Not just from a standpoint of like being able to see it, but like from the coordination aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I'd been hit in the head and body and everything so much that I even had difficulty in getting the soap. So they made me like take a shower while they stood there with the garden hose just hosing me off. And I can remember getting really cold from that. But then it wasn't over. That would have been about the halfway point.
And you said it was sexual assault followed by beatings in all of those cases.
Yes. Some people didn't even want to sexually assault me. Some people just wanted to beat the hell out of me. So not all of them, they got to do whatever they wanted, but with all of the different people, it included some sort of physical assault, physical and sexual assault, or just the physical. There weren't any instances of just sexual assault. It was around causing damage to me, and towards the end of it, I can remember my dad saying he can't take anymore, he's gonna die.
Yeah.
And you know, at that point, he had like drugged me because I couldn't walk or anything to one of the groups, and they said if he can't take any more, it's not over with. You're going to have to take the rest of it. And he said, fine, because I'm going to go to jail to kill him. So they beat the absolute hell out of him, too.
Okay.
I can remember my dad kind of carried me away from the last, group of people. And I think he had to change clothes or something for me. And it took a while, 30 minutes or something, but I finally got through enough I could breathe and everything. to where I walked out of there with help.
And then is that when they took you to Andy Biggs? Or Andy Biggs tortured and raped you?
Not immediately thereafter, but another week or two passed, or maybe a month, week, two, whatever. I was healed as far as my most of my bruises and stuff like that from the first farm incident by the time I went to Andy Biggs. And of the physical assaults, his was the worst. He kept beating me until my ribs were broken. I was turning blue, convulsing. If you get beaten enough, as you try to breathe, you just kind of click. I can't describe it any other way than that. It's not even a wheezing or anything, but your like diaphragm or something locks up and you just start clicking. Some people call that like the death rattle.
Yeah.
But that's the point to which he beat me, to where when I would try to breathe, my chest would just make this clicking noise. And I don't know how to describe it. No,
you described that extremely, extremely clearly. Like I say, I appreciate your forthrightness. Now, you and I had spoken, and you said that your dad told you that after the incident with Andy Biggs, that your dad said that Trump and Trump's associates said that whatever debt they thought you owed because you fought back against Trump, that the debt was paid, and the debt was you getting raped and beaten brutally by all those individuals, including Andy Biggs.
Yes.
And then you said that you don't recall attending any more parties after that, and you weren't sure if it was because they thought you aged out because you were 12 or 13, or whether they just thought you were too much of a hassle, like they could get caught.
I think all of that came into play, yes.
Or they might wanted to behave vindictive towards your dad about whatever money your dad was earning. Do you think that?
I couldn't speak to any of that part of it. I'm not even sure like the financial arrangements or anything like that. I can remember that when they sent me to the brothel, that they were upset that they didn't make more money. And then I can remember Lynn being absolutely furious because they were going to get this big payday from doing the child porn in Tennessee, but they wound up losing money on the deal because they got stiffed by whoever bought the film when it was done, and they had to spend, I think, some money on a lawyer, so it was a net loss for them. It was something to do with like the film wasn't as long as what they agreed to pay money for, so they didn't make as much, and you know.
But the films,
I just remember them being upset.
Okay. And the filming, most of the filming, the parties was all associated with Trump and the Trump Epstein Ghislaine pedophile ring. Different layers of parties.
Yeah, but it's a whole bunch of people. It's just that from my childhood perspective, what I saw, or what I thought that I saw, was he was the big boss. Donald Trump was the big boss, and then Epstein was like you said, like the manager or something. And then you had lower level people like my dad that kind of went out and found girls or coordinated, at the ground level of things. Yeah.
So in terms of
even Epstein himself, he just sought out people like my dad that would sell, their adopted child, their actual child, or whatever. So those are the different layers of people.
Yeah. But that Trump was involved in a lot of the planning, micromanaging, filming.
Certainly the payouts.
Yeah.
Because I know that when I was offered to Trump, the excitement that was in the house from Lynn particularly was that this is going to be the big payday. We have made it up to the highest level of this thing, so to speak. because they would sell me at a lower level to people that they knew. You know, not this is outside of the parties, but obviously they don't have the type of money that these rich folks have, so that wasn't really a big payday, and they were nervous about taking that kind of money because they were accepting this large amount of risk for really little amount of reward, and they were excited to make it to the level of Donald Trump, because I think the payday that they were supposed to get was $25,000.
Mm-hmm.
It may have been another sum, but that's just the sum that I remember, and that may not sound like a lot, especially today, but for our less standard of living, that would have been a fairly sizable chunk of money.
Mm-hmm. And we spoke about, in terms of the years, when you were about 9 to 10 years old, maybe 8 years old, until about 13. Mm-hmm. And most of the parties, there were only 3 or 4 kids there. Sometimes only you.
Yes.
And it was
they would
sort of the different.
Always have, they would almost always have at least one girl there. So I'm sure that the mentality of that would be, you know, to have a boy or a girl to choose from. And there may have been children at these parties that were in attendance that I just didn't see. Because I was being abused, you know, in like a bedroom of the farmhouse or some other location, and there could have been more people there. I can't really say exactly that. Mm-hmm. You get kind of just from a standpoint of the experience, you very much just kind of lock onto your surroundings to try to stay alive. You know, you're looking at the person that you're having this encounter with, anything that you could potentially use for a weapon, escape paths and stuff like that. Very much you're in survival mode. So you tend to hyper-focus on just what's immediately around you. So there may have been additional things going on, but I really wasn't paying attention to those.
Okay, and we spoke about the average age was like 9 or 10 years old in some cases. Layers of parties.
Way up to adult prostitutes were there too.
Yeah.
So the younger end is 9, 10, all the way up to young ladies, 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds. You know.
And did you ever see Andy Biggs sexually assault and torture anyone else? Or you?
No. Not that I can recall, no.
And what about Jim Jordan?
No. I remember him from that one instance. I'm not saying that he wasn't at additional, but I only remember him at the one. And I can remember a bunch of people being there, but to be honest with you, the rest of them just kind of melded together. You know, just a bunch of adults. You know, kind of a crowd of people. The ones that I focused on, the ones that I remember, are the ones that seared into my brain that this person could kill me next time.
Yeah.
So I need to remember this type of deal, and that's those 3.
Yeah, and then Trump during all those years. Now, did you ever see Clarence Thomas more than once, or Lindsey Graham?
I could have, but I only remembered Lindsey because his mannerisms, particularly when he's not in the public spotlight, are very effeminate.
Yeah.
So that stood out to me, and Clarence stood out to me, and I only remember seeing them at one of those parties before anything happened. So I'm not saying that they were necessarily involved in abuse. They could have been. They could have even been involved in abuse that included me. I just can't swear to that. But he stood out because of his mannerisms being so effeminate. I believe the people that I was around, my dad and whoever he was talking to at the time, joking and laughing about those mannerisms. And then I remember Clarence because he's a black man. Not only is he a black man, but he's kind of a dark-skinned black man. So in that group of people, he stood out a lot because he was the only black guy there.
Okay. And then in terms of, we talked about transportation, plane, airplane, helicopter, automobile. You said there was usually there weren't a lot of folks on the plane, maybe sometimes 3 or 4 other kids, sometimes just you,
Right.
whichever adults on
Right.
the plane. When,
Yes.
with the snuff movies, were any of those shot on the farm that you remember? Or those were, you said, were at different locations?
Those were at different locations.
And how many folks
Other
did you see
than-
killed in the snuff movies that you saw filmed?
That was filmed?
Yeah.
For sure, 100%. I only remember that one.
Yeah.
Now, if they filmed Patricia being shot, that would be 2.
Okay.
But the other one was on like what you would think of as a movie set.
Yeah.
Probably just a warehouse, somebody's basement. I couldn't tell you the location, but it wasn't just a handheld, VHS camcorder. It was something on a tripod with lights and things like that. And we were having sex, and somebody walked in and just shot her in the head, and I don't remember her name.
So it was a similar MO as with Patricia.
Yes, but there was no additional assault to me afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
yes, it was similar to what happened there. Other than with Patricia, they busted in. It was however many of them there was, about half a dozen. And I had to stand there and watch, kind of like I had to with the puppies, while they abused her first and then shot her.
Did Patricia say anything to you before Patricia was shot? Do you remember anything? Did Patricia say anything all during the assault?
I can remember her asking to just die. Please just kill me. And I can remember telling Patricia, because this is what Samantha had said to Sarah before Samantha shot her, was, "You're going to come be with me now. I love you." And then she shot her. So I said the same thing to Patricia.
Mm-hmm.
And then they shot her.
There really aren't any English language words that convey, I'm glad that you found each other, that you found some way that you could find some sort of friendship in such harrowing circumstances. I'm so sad, but I don't.
She was just a sweet little girl, and that's what these people are. And this world is just not need that.
Yeah. Do you have a sense that Trump and those perpetrators would specifically try to look for children they thought were really innocent to torture?
Oh,
like
yeah.
the puppies?
Oh, yeah.
Like the more innocent, they wanted to torture them
Yes.
more?
Yes. It was about the experience to them didn't seem to be all that sexual in nature. It was about taking a bright little energetic youth and then just destroying that person. Even if not physically necessarily, but psychologically and emotionally. It's like to the point where they just really were like traumatized for life.
Mm-hmm.
That was what they seemed to enjoy doing.
Yeah.
And my mother, Willian Riley, was of the exact same personality flaws that those rich people were. And as bad as my dad is, and as far as human beings go, I would say that he's just about a failure in every way. He wasn't even that bad. There was just some semblance of conscience with him. Like, I can remember at that party, him just about breaking down into tears because it was affecting him emotionally to see me take that level of punishment or abuse or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So Lynn was a type of person, she would have smiled and laughed and had a really good time. That's who she was. And that's who Donald Trump is. And that's who Andy David is. Those three are like the last level of human as far as depravity goes. I mean, there's nothing in the way of watching another person suffer that they didn't seem to enjoy. It would be the best way to put it.
So it would be similar sort of psychopathy as John Wayne Gacy. Trump.
Yeah. Yeah. If
even worse.
I can remember Samantha was the first and maybe only person that Lynn got to kill, and I remember her being upset that she didn't get to be the one to kill her. And that's the last part of what they used as leverage against me. And they had damaged her to the point where she was probably going to die anyway. But Samantha asked me, they threw her in the room, they had cut off one of her toes. She was not in a good way. I think that maybe they had broken her arm. But she was suffering, and she asked me to choke her to death. And I did. And they used that, my parents used that as leverage against me for a period of time, telling me that I was the only one guilty of murder. So in my childhood brain, I thought that made sense, but I just did for Sammy what Sammy kind of did for Sarah.
That's how you were looking at. Okay, so let's just recap, because that's important. I don't want that to get misconstrued. So Samantha, okay. Sarah, Patricia. Which one was African American again? Samantha. So Samantha was African American, and you were all tortured and trafficked by Trump and the Trump Epstein pedophile ring.
Yeah.
Brutally tortured. When Sarah was going to commit suicide, Sarah was afraid to pull the trigger, and Samantha pulled the trigger, and so that Samantha could die, because Samantha was afraid to commit suicide. Sarah asked Samantha to pull the trigger. And then when your parents,
I was in the room.
Yeah.
Sarah had asked for me to be in the room too, because she wanted, we cared about each other. Me, Sarah, Samantha, and Patricia were all just like, we kind of, Three Musketeers or whatever, we kind of stuck with each other because we did the best we could to look out for one another. But she wanted me to be in the room too, because she wanted to die around the people that she loved. And at that point, it was just me and Samantha. I don't.
And was that at the brothel again, or what was the location?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
That was at the brothel.
Okay, and so that's when Sarah died, and then they had to clean up.
Yes.
Clean up.
Yeah. The adults came in and took Sarah's body, but I remember Samantha and I had to use the cleanest solutions and clean up all the blood and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. And then when Marie Lynn and William Kyle tortured Samantha almost to death, Samantha was going to die, and then Samantha asked you to kill Samantha, similar that Sarah asked Samantha to kill Sarah.
She showed me how to choke her, and I did.
What else did she say?
Samantha?
Yeah.
She just made me.
She said to save her?
She made me promise to live life for both of them. She made me promise that I would get through it.
What do you think Marie Lynn and William would have done to Samantha if Samantha hadn't have died?
They just would have kept beating on her until she was dead.
So
They
Samantha,
tortured her for a couple of weeks, probably.
a couple of weeks. So they tortured Samantha during a couple of weeks, and then Samantha asked you to kill Samantha because Samantha didn't want to die getting tortured by William, Kyle, and Marie Lynn.
She said, I can't go back in there.
Yeah.
I can't do it again.
Yeah.
Because they had us locked in like a little storage room.
Yeah.
And they would pull us out one at a time and torture us and then throw us back in there together. And that last day, they threw her back in there at night. And I can remember we stayed up almost all night talking. I can remember when daybreak hit, she said, you've got to do it. I can't. Basically, she could not face them again, and she knew that shortly after sunrise, my parents would be up.
Yeah.
So, and when I filed the police report, I told them that same thing. So, that the police report that was never followed up.
So when
I did that in Lawton, Oklahoma.
In Oklahoma, and so when you talked to the police, you said Samantha had asked you to kill Samantha because Samantha couldn't bear getting tortured by your parents anymore, and you told the police, and the police never followed up in Oklahoma.
I filled out a whole report. It was recorded. I gave them the exact same story I'm telling you, and I never heard back from them. And I don't know why. I don't know how deep they dug. I don't know why that investigation stalled, but at the conclusion of that, I felt as though law enforcement was not somebody that would do anything. Because I know that the investigations have to be somewhere.
Yeah.
My parents were investigated over and over and over again, particularly my dad, in 3 different states.
Seems like there was some
different states. Four different states. Because Texas, Tennessee, Alabama, and they tried to kill me in Florida. There was another investigation in Florida that followed them back to Alabama.
Yeah.
So,
I have a question for you.
There's no way. Yes.
This is specific regarding with Trump again, and I think it might help in terms of sort of just establishing something. When you kicked the tent peg into Trump's anus, you said it tore Trump's backside open, anus open.
Yes.
There's a lot of gossip, discussion about Donald Trump's being incontinent since several years ago. I remember some folks that worked on the television series The Apprentice, they said Donald Trump had to wear diapers. And that...
I would bet it's because I ripped him open.
That's what my sense is that some of the gossip has been, Trump had used Adderall, Trump was incontinent because of drug use. But I'm wondering, and I do know that the truth, if that's actually the reason Trump wears diapers is a significant part. Do you remember? I mean, can you describe what the injuries look like? Do you remember enough to describe?
I remember the scream that he let out when I kicked him. And I remember backing away, and it was, I can't remember exactly what it looked like, but it wasn't just that he was hurt. He started, while he was screaming, like his entire body was in almost like a horseshoe, where he was just and vibrating or convulsing while he was just screaming at the. I remember his reaction being so loud that it scared me, and I kind of backed away. But what the injury itself looked like, I can't really describe that, because in my mind, I thought that he was going to die after.
Mm-hmm.
So I like got as far away as I could, like in the corner. And as he's just the scream that he let out, I can remember that. Yeah, just like a banshee. And then those people came in there, obviously knowing something was up. They pointed a gun at me. Anyway, they didn't beat me. They didn't do anything like that. They just scooped him up, got him out of there, and then they tried to figure out what had happened. And I know at one point I was just there with like a couple of guys holding a gun on me, and there was some discussion. My dad was brought in, and they just let us go for that day. Nobody harmed us that day, because they didn't really know how they were going to handle it. They didn't know if Trump was going to die. He was fucked up. I mean, no doubt. That's something that left a scar. There is no doubt in my mind that left a permanent scar on him. So, and as far as if it's possible that that's the reason that he's incontinent today, it's very, very much so. It wasn't it wasn't a minor injury by any stretch of the imagination. It was my best effort to kill him in the most horrible way that I could possibly do it. I just happened to fail.
Well, you were 12, and you'd just seen Patricia tortured and raped and murdered. Trump premeditated the murder of Patricia to torture you, and then Trump tortured you. It's extreme circumstances. You experienced understandable rage at injustice, the most depraved sort of injustice.
And as much as I am able to corroborate, I wish somebody would just offer my dad a deal, because he knows all of it. It would be worth him not going to jail, as far as I'm concerned, just to blow this whole thing open, because as bad as my dad is, any malice that I might have towards him is superseded by the fact that the whole of the organization is even worse.
Yeah.
But that's just me talking to you. I mean, I understand you're not in that position. I'm not in that position, but that's just, I wonder how many other people are out there that are just like my dad. My dad was kind of like a recruiter, maybe. I think he would go out and find runaways, but I can't say where those people got all of the other people. I know that I don't know where Sarah came from. I know Samantha came from an abusive household, and she ran away when she was 12 or 13. Lived on the streets for a while, and then wound up in that brothel, and then wound up getting used in that whole ring. And Patricia had been in some similar circumstance where I think that she was adopted and used kind of like I was, but then she wound up on the street too, another runaway. But I don't know Sarah's background. I don't remember it.
I think your dad was probably one of similar sort of recruiters they might have used in different locations, or in terms of the core group of like those specific torture parties, they might have tried to keep a quite tight rein on things.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to talk about right now? I mean, I think
I have shared the bulk of what I remember vividly.
okay.
Sometimes another detail or something will pop up into my head. But and I've spent years kind of trying to dissect all of this, and over the number of years, about the last 10 years, I've been just peeling back layer after layer of this. And as far as what I remember clearly, this is pretty much it. Like I say, there were other instances of assaults, but I can't tell you who did what, when, or where. And I can't place it to a specific individual outside of, both of my parents assaulted me. Some of the other family members assaulted me. I can remember that. But as far as anybody of any importance, those 5 names that I've given are the only ones. The 2 that were there, and then the 3, Andy, Jim, and Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
But there were other people at those parties, and those people were important. I just can't point a finger at them and say for sure.
Yeah, no,
don't that person.
Don't worry about that at all right now. There's what I'm going to do is,
to be honest with you, seeing Clarence Thomas there really stood out. But what cements that into my brain was the celebration that my dad had when he got confirmed onto the Supreme Court. How excited he was to have a person as high as the Supreme Court that was involved in all of it as sort of a buffer.
Yeah.
So, could potentially have John Roberts or Justice Alito, one of those guys, been there? Potentially. I don't know, but I can remember specifically how excited he was that, this is a person in about the highest position possible. And I remember him saying that's a lifetime appointment. So,
do you remember,
for what that's worth?
No, that's important. That's significant. Do you remember any female attendees at those parties? Adult females?
Yes, but it was not very common. Lynn went to one at least, and they were rare.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the women that were at these parties were escorts or children.
Mm-hmm.
So there were some adult escorts at some of the parties for sure, and then there were possibly, before it got down to the smaller group of people at the end where they really did the more brutal, more heinous stuff, that was always just a bunch of men. I can't remember women being in a smaller circle other than other people being trafficked. I can't remember any women being there.
Besides Trump, could you identify any of the rest of the men, of those 8 to 10 men that were always in the tour, in the core torture group? If you saw the photos?
He would be the only one that I could clearly say that this person. The rest of them, I didn't think they were going to kill me.
Yeah.
So they just kind of go into the memory bank of just something else bad. And the only ones that I remember are the ones that I thought were dangerous, and then Clarence because he's black, and then Lindsay just because of his mannerisms. Mm-hmm. And I remember seeing him and observing his mannerisms. What I remember even more is my dad and whoever he was with at the time kind of joking about those mannerisms. I can even remember somebody telling my dad to be careful because there were a lot of people at that party that were gay. So if he got caught like making fun of a rich person that was gay or at least had the mannerisms and demeanor of a gay person, that it might cause my dad problems. You know, so it was kind of, we can kind of laugh and joke about this a little bit here, but you better be careful what you say around other people, because a lot of these people are gay or at least have bisexual tendencies, and they may take offense to that. And these are the people that my dad was not in a position to offend.
Mm-hmm.
They, you know.
Okay. Well, what I'm going to do, I'm going to get this recording here, this second recording, and backups and so on. And then I'm just going to spend the rest of Saturday fairly quiet, doing some peaceful things, which I highly suggest you do as well. Just whatever you like to do that you experience some joy about. I'm going to do some
yard work.
There you go.
If it's not too hot outside, it was pretty hot yesterday, but that's kind of what that's my meditation, that or the gym, and I can't go to the gym today.
Yeah, spend some time outdoors.
I have a set schedule.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what I'll do, like I said already, I'd like to just get the text messages we've got and the recordings, and I'm just going to figure out in terms of, there's 2 recordings now, and I'm just going to figure out whether I might just upload to a specific drive, and then I've got to look at just in terms of the logistics with the recordings. Like I said, I'd like to just post them raw with a brief summary, and a totally different context. But a long time ago, I was speaking to some folks who are at NASA about climate crisis related, and one of the women that I know at NASA was talking about all the data they were seeing, and there was so much politicization of the data that Lynn was concerned that it was going to be a huge negative impact. Lynn's perspective in terms of climate crisis was, in terms of survival of the human species. And we'd had some discussion about posting all of these data from all these different locations, the North Koreans, NORAD, just so everybody could look at the data and they'd be like, holy Christ, what the heck is going on? And then it's like a bit more simple to try to get folks of different opinions, belief systems, to behave more unified. So slightly, obviously what we're discussing is quite different, but what's similar is, the truth is being suppressed. And
very much so. It all comes back to greed, and these people have this defect in their soul or personality or whatever you want to say, and they're denying the climate crisis for the sake of money, and they're denying the pedophile ring because the rich people that are involved in it want it to continue.
Yeah.
It's just a level of corruption that seems to permeate, I don't know, in almost every direction. It's not everybody who is corrupt, or most certainly the average person, I would think, would be very much against all of this, but not enough people in key positions to prevent it from happening. And that's...
Yeah.
And, to be honest with you, to some degree, it feels like the Democrats are just part of theater. Joe Biden had 4 years to kind of do some things, and it seemed like as far as policy went, it seemed like some things were going in the right direction. But where was the urgency with the guy that tried to incite a coup?
Well,
it almost feels like they're just playing almost all feels performative.
No, I understand. I think
this
Joe,
side and that side.
Yeah, I think Joe Biden was trying to do the right thing. And there's obviously a lot of folks, Republicans, that are involved in the pedophile ring and have compromise against them, and perhaps some Democrats. And I think it's one of those situations where, you know, if Biden had more information, there's a lot more Biden would have done. So there's obviously been some collusion about the information that everyone's getting. And I think what you were talking about in terms of parties and how the parties seem to be presented, you know, folks that were engaged in some level of criminal behavior, but wasn't the extreme criminal behavior of those that were torturing and murdering kids. And so they were all trying to play it all off against them all. So all these different folks had compromise, say, on drug use or some sex acts they didn't want publicized, but they didn't know about the torture ring. So a lot of collusion, but there are decent folks, and there are decent folks that are trying to do the right thing. And I'll get these audio files, I'll get them looked at, I'll get them uploaded, I'll write a little summary. I'm sort of simmering about, you know, just some of the logistics in terms of the file size, the right location, where I'm comfortable with the files being. And I'm, like I say, I've already looked in terms of some contacts at the Hague. One of the things with the Hague is the United States isn't part of the international, you know, the criminal court system anymore. But I know how it can still be presented because it is international security issue, considering Trump's wreaking this sort of havoc. Now, Trump's attempting to wreak havoc on all sorts of folks in all sorts of countries regarding tariffs and all sorts of nonsense. And is it the exact MO you described with the puppies and with Patricia? So
he does seem to enjoy watching the act of suffering play out.
Yeah.
In almost any venue that he has any part of.
Yeah. And now with immigrations and detentions, disappearances in the United States, again, it's similar.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I just, if Trump does one thing that's good for this country, it will be by being such a putrid human being, he will maybe expose much of the corruption around him. And that is my only hope for him. Other than that, he serves no positive purpose to mankind.
Yeah.
But if his level of malfeasance somehow segues into the exposing of the misdeeds of some really bad people around him, that'll be the only good thing he's ever done.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion, but
yeah,
I have watched this presidency closer than any other because of my past, and good God, everything he touches turns to shit.
Yeah.
And it seems to be that he turns it to shit in the most callous and horrible way possible for as many people as he can make it that way.
Yeah.
It's incredible to me that so many people are on board with the suffering of others, and it seems to be the almost the selling point.
Yeah.
You know, I can remember discussing with somebody the other day, I don't care if somebody's here legally or illegally. At the end of the day, that's still a human being that we're talking about. Now, if this person has gone and murdered people or done something like that, well, then they should answer for it. But every person deserves due process. Every person. And that's the way the Constitution is written. That was the one thing that all 9 Supreme Court justices even agreed on.
Mm.
Is that everybody should get due process.
Yeah.
And So the fact that he is denying people that and trying to convince the masses that certain people do not deserve due process is just alarming to a degree that it actually is shocking to me that it isn't a line in the sand for everybody. I don't understand the reasoning behind some people thinking that because your skin's brown, you don't deserve due process, or because you crossed the border here, which is essentially a civil matter, a speeding ticket type of violation, you know, that somehow now that person deserves to suffer to death.
On such a subject, something that I'm simmering with in terms of timing of publishing the files, you know, there's, on one hand, I want to publish sooner than later, but one of my siblings is traveling to the United States this week, and I told her not to travel. I said it was quite urgent not to travel, and she just hasn't read a lot of information. Yeah, I know. And so what I'm thinking, what I'm looking at in terms of logistics, especially since we've, you know, our discussion today, I need to confirm when my sister's traveling and her husband, when they're back in Canada. And I would want to make sure they're back in Canada before I post the audio file, just in case. I don't blame you. You know, because I just don't. I mean, it's one of those things, you know, I want to make sure you're in a safe location. I want to, I have a friend who's retired. He's American. He's worked as a defense attorney, but he lives in Canada now, at least half the year, and he hates Trump. And I got a call into him. He was a defense attorney in the United States, and I want to run through some things with him, see if he has some suggestions just in terms of preparation, in terms of, you know, so we're okay. So if there's a deluge of press, maybe it will maybe folks will ignore, maybe there'll be a bunch of press contacts. I just want to make sure there's a bit in terms of preparation there. So, but it is really urgent, I know, sooner than later. So let's just, you know, go step by step.
Okay, absolutely. I'll look forward to hearing back from you.
Yeah, and
there is one other entity that is right now going through some flight logs, and I think they're going to schedule talking to me tomorrow. I think it was the day that they had. So they are looking for my name and my dad's name in different itineraries to try to piece it together from a different angle.
Yeah, and who are the folks you're speaking to there?
There, I have the name on there. I don't have it on the top of my head. Hold on. I sent him an email. Let me look at my email. The Crustian Daily ICE list.
Okay, that's right. So they're looking through there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. When you speak to them, maybe just tell them that don't mention my name, but just say you're speaking to someone that's helping them that's helping you in terms of court related, affidavit related, and that I'm planning on publishing some discussions with us imminently. And if they would, you know, I just want to, you know, I want to make sure that it doesn't get the waters don't get muddied inadvertently. I actually follow them on social media, and I like what they're, you know, they're trying to get compilations and all the ICE agents and everything. So that's great. But I would appreciate just from, and just a bit more in terms of my background. I've spent lots of time advising folks on a whole range of subjects, and I, you know, have a very specific approach in regards to law enforcement. That's sort of I'm sort of Clark Kent camouflaged. And so when I look at what I'm looking at, it's really about what's truly the right thing that's really going to truly help ensure there's justice. And I mean like true justice. So if anybody from any journalistic outlet tries to contact you for interviews or anything, I would appreciate if you would just decline until we can get this published, because I think that's going to really help in terms of what we can of what's the most important to get out of what we've covered raw, because journalists are going to try and edit, and there's just, we have to be careful about who's on side and who isn't. So,
Right.
so, and I'd like to speak to some folks that, with the human rights organizations, maybe even try to get something into the ICC before, again, sooner than later. And so talk to the folks at the Crustian tomorrow, but please don't agree to any sort of journalistic interviews with them or anyone else until we get these audio files published.
Okay.
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 Awesome. And
Yep.
contact me anytime anything comes up. Okay. I want you to know that, I'm a fierce warrior myself. So
I believe I have relayed the bulk of what I truly remember clearly. But if some detail should come up that I remember after the fact that I think is pertinent, I'll just shoot you a text or a message.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've been as thorough as I can without ad-libbing.
Yeah.
I have my thoughts on the matter as well, but I'm just trying to relay those things that I clearly remember, and that unfortunately is just the small amount that I have told you. There's much more to it. It's just that those details are so muddy that all I can say is there's just a substantial amount more abuse that I can't pinpoint and be specific about. So.
No, I understand. And then, again, I'd still like to look, so we've got these files. I probably, in terms of the one file, I'll probably shorten the length just of the 5 minutes where we talk about, carefulness in terms of journalists and stuff, and my sister traveling just for safety reasons. So I'll just cut the one file short. But
Right.
Then for sure, I'd like to look at, another interview where we talk about some of the details that are fuzzy and everything, but just peacefully.
Okay.
It's the right timing and things. And then, like I say, I've sort of tried to structure so it's easy to get into affidavit format and stuff in terms of criminal cases. I know you could file a lawsuit or something in the United States, but I just don't know that that's the right approach to look at right now. Like E. Jean Carroll filed a lawsuit, but this is a totally different level of crime, right? So,
Yes, yeah.
which is why I'm.
And I also want to be careful that I don't come across looking like I do not care about money. I do not care about any sort of notoriety. All I care about is exposing this for what it is in hopes that it would shut down that part of the operation. I know that you can't exactly create a nirvana. There's always going to be bad people doing bad things, but at this level that it's being used, somebody has to stand up to it, because we're goose-stepping towards our own crematorium, is what it looks like to me. And we're having to do that because of all this leverage on the people at the very top of our food chain.
Yeah. Well, what I'm going to...
In as much as Donald Trump has all of this dirt on the people around him, I wonder just exactly what dirt maybe our adversaries have on Donald Trump. That's just speculative on my part.
Yeah.
But it certainly would seem to me that he is beholden to Netanyahu and to Putin.
Yeah, I would say that's quite clear, and certainly even involving yourself and footage with yourself. So.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
But I very much appreciate the help with all this. I've forgotten the name again. The Crustacean or whomever, they are trying to put together the different flight itineraries. So
okay.
They and possibly I'm not sure who I spoke to about that, but apparently there's facial recognition software and there's an international porn database.
Yeah.
So when child victims become adults, if they approve, and I do, being run through that system, they can, if it's ever been on the internet, they can do a lot of forensics.
Did they say they
analysis.
thought they could help with that, or that they might have access to some of the software?
I believe so.
Okay.
I believe so.
I mean,
So,
don't mention my name, but just mention that, I'm helping you and that I might like to talk to them and you at some point. But just tell them I'm sort of looking through in terms of the ICC and I'm doing some diligence there, just precautionary.
2 people have also reached out to me that have been involved in similar types of abuse. I don't know if that would be potentially helpful. I don't know that this is under the same umbrella.
Yeah.
But one lady that has reached out to me has talked about something that's more involved than just, like family abuse type of things.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, we'll look at all those things. And when I'm looking at something that would help me, if you thought about a little bit in terms of sort of jurisdictions, if you were anyone, either you said you remembered accents and stuff, and then with Putin, just in terms of if there was anyone in Europe, and specifically in Canada, it's one of the countries of the British Commonwealth, the Commonwealth of Nations. And if there's anyone in any of the Commonwealth of Nations countries that might help in terms of with jurisdiction. But like I said, it's international security issues. So, I would hope that, decent folks working as prosecutors in Canada and involved with the ICC and concerns regarding NATO and the Five Eyes Agreement would do the right thing and attempt to assist. So that's sort of what I'm trying to sort out a little bit there. But I know that as a very big start is just publishing the briefings. And like I say, I would send the briefings to some of the folks that I've advised during the years. I would publish and post them, and I'll contact after the briefings with the audio were published with the right preface, and right preface meaning so it was clear that what your position is, and it's clear what my position is, which is doing the right thing, right? It isn't about some financial interests or anything. It's about doing the right thing.
Right.
Sometimes doing the right thing involves finances, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about honoring the truth.
That's it. Those 3 girls, they deserved a chance at life too.
Yeah.
And these people that somehow believe that they're elevated from the same rules and laws as the rest of us decided that their own absolute monstrosity of desires was more important. And I just don't think that condition should be allowed to exist.
Yeah.
I forget who said it, but evil only exists, or something about good people doing nothing. Evil exists because good people do nothing. Something to that effect.
Yeah.
And I don't know. This level of evil, I don't think should exist, but we will see.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna spend a little time outdoors and get some follow-up calls going, and we'll figure this out. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your help.
You're welcome. And hey, something else before we go, I'll just tell you one of my own, 2 of my mantras. Mantra isn't the word I'd like to say because I don't practice occultist sort of Buddhism. 2 of my mottos, I guess. Honor self, honor all is one, and thanks forward, faith up is another. So That's my approach on these items. If that helps.
I do appreciate all of the help. I do.
Thank you.
I hope that my hope is just that some good will come out of this. Is it? And if that just means exposing the bad people, then so.
Sasha, I'll make sure. I'll make sure. And how I can't even quite really speak to you about how I've already made sure there is justice, and it's much more immense than anyone else really experiences awareness of, and justice is here now. Okay.
I appreciate it. I look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah, I'll talk to you soon, Sasha.
If you crave nature but still shop online, Night and Day Herbals is your dream come true. Discover premium herbal soaps, shampoos, and CBD products. All organic, all for you. Shop now at nightandayherbals.com.